We're back after the final break. This is the third and final part of this podcast. We are going to talk about AI and how it has changed education. We just talked about ways to mitigate risks and how we should teach learners how to learn. And now we're going to look at education as a whole. It's a very ambitious project, to say the
Indeed.
least. The first question might sound quite ambitious, but I think you have the knowledge to answer it. How do you think AI will impact the goals of education? And what are the goals of education?
Yeah, of course, there are several goals of education, and but we can focus at least on these three. So the first one is preparing learners for work.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is personal development, so helping learners to think critically, helping learners to learn how to study. And the third one is social integration, so that learners become part of our societies. So as for the first goal of education, preparing learners for work, we can already predict that today's students will work a lot with AI in the future in their...
A lot of workplaces already have AI in place.
Yes, it's happening already right now. So of course it will also be a reality for today's students. A large portion of their working days will be communicating with AI. And what do we know about companies' attitudes towards AI? Companies usually do not value how workers arrived to the answer. They usually value efficiency,
Efficiency,
productivity, cost reduction, and generally getting reliable results quickly. So for them, it's completely okay, usually, in most cases, that that workers are using AI.
as long as the results suffice.
Yes. But does it mean that learners still they don't need any prior knowledge because they will use AI in their work anyway? Well, I don't think so. I think that their prior knowledge still plays a critical role because at least they need to be able to judge AI's output.
Yes.
To spot mistakes. And
to correct them, of course.
Yes, correct them. And at the same time, to create something truly, meaningful.
And their own.
Yeah, meaningful, their own. Well, that's a question, whether it's still their own or it's like a collaboration with AI. But to create something really, truly advanced, you still need to have sufficient prior knowledge. So it still matters to learn. And another goal is personal development. So as I said, it's about thinking critically and becoming knowledgeable. And there is a big question about how generative AI will impact students' abilities to think. And this thing with generative AI is very new. So we do not yet have any long-term research studies that evaluate the effects of generative AI use on students' cognitive abilities. But what we can at least predict is that, we know that we as humans tend to lose skills when we do not practice them regularly. So if we imagine a student who is constantly outsourcing thinking to AI, we may expect some problems with their thinking abilities in the long term. So
I think we talked about this a bit before we recorded this podcast. It was about telephone numbers. And in the olden days, the ancient times, people had to learn telephone numbers out of their heads because it was just manual phones and you just had to ring the phone number. And nowadays, I can say for myself, I only know like 2 telephone numbers.
Yeah, me too.
In emergency contexts, it's those 2 people, no one else, because everything else we have in our phones. And I think the same is kind of happening.
Yes, so if there is no critical need to remember this information, then we'll likely lose skills in this regard. And Also, we can talk about the example of the internet, because right now we carry all human knowledge in just our jeans pocket, in our electronic devices. So because of the arrival of the internet, many researchers also stated that the meaning of knowing something has changed. Previously, knowing something meant you have this in your own memory, and now knowing something means you have access to knowledge. So you remember where to find this information.
Yes. So you know how to look it up on Google, for example, but not know it's out of the top of your head.
Yeah, that's correct. And the same shift may happen with AI. So, for instance, right now, if we say I can do something,
I can write a text, for example.
Yes, we usually mean that I can do it without tools or just with the internet. But the meaning of it will also likely shift to I can do it with the help of AI.
And the internet and each other. Those are the things we might not forget in this grander scheme.
Yeah, so I think you're correct for drawing more attention to this, because many problems in education have already existed for a long time, also with the arrival of the internet.
Yes.
And now with generative AI, they have been just intensified. And it's time to really address them.
Yeah. And I think I said with each other as feedback tools is also very important, because you mentioned the last part was social integration.
Social integration, indeed. Yes, it's about becoming members of society and also enhancing your communication skills. And here it's also very tricky because we still don't have any long-term research studies on this topic. So what we see is that AI is mainly used for writing tasks. And we know that students use it to write emails and write other assignments. So given this, we can expect that there will be a decrease in their communication skills. But on the other hand, we also observed that now students interact with AI a lot. And to do that, they need to formulate their prompts, requests to AI very precisely. So another hypothesis would be to expect an enhancement in part of these communication skills, at least in the skill of formulating your request clearly.
So we might, for example, but this is purely hypothetical, instead of a very long email, just get 3 lines with the essential information and that's it. But that's just something I think about, because an AI tool just needs thing 1, thing 2, thing 3, while a human might want a bit more context. But
yeah, but at the same time, AI tools are also getting better all the time. So I also noticed that sometimes when I'm being lazy when communicating with AI, it still understands my request, even when it's not like 100% very well formulated. So it's very interesting where it all goes.
It's something we'll have to see in about 5 to 10 years. But so goals of education, we have workplace readiness to educate students in order to integrate on the workplace. We have personal development for your own thinking. We have social integration, how we should interact with each other and how we should be as citizens of a society. Of course, if those things change, namely the main goals of education, I assume for teachers' roles, it will change as well. And do you think it will change for teachers? And do you, for example, think that teachers might be replaced at one point?
Also a very timely question. So in the literature, there is a shared understanding that the teacher's role will continue to evolve and will likely be transformed in the end. But most studies, they do not share the idea that teachers will be replaced by technology. A lot more emphasis is on the collaborative approach. so collaboration between teachers and AI.
Oh, not teachers with each other. It's
No,
teachers and
teachers
AI.
with AI. Yeah, a notion what is called teacher-AI complementarity, and there are also some other synonyms like augmented intelligence or teacher-AI partnerships. So right now, different studies are exploring at the same time what factors are important to ensure this collaboration. At least we can list several factors like the role of teachers' trust to AI. But you see, it's a bit contradictory.
Yeah.
They should not trust it blindly, but they should have at least some trust to AI systems to collaborate with AI.
They should be open to it, but like in every group project, you need to check what the other one is doing before you adapt it to your own.
Correct. Yeah, so that's the big idea, teacher-AI complementarity right now. And you might be interested, during my first year, we conducted a systematic literature review on the teacher's role transformation due to the impact of AI. And 4 themes were identified, 4 themes of opportunities that AI brings.
So these are positive things.
Yes. And I would say that the literature is quite positive. It's like techno-optimistic approach. So the first theme was personalized learning. I would say it is the main ambition of studies regarding AI in education. And this is the idea that AI can help teachers to change their approach to teaching from one size fits all or one size fits most to more adaptive and personalized learning experiences. And it is anticipated that teachers will be able to do it even in large classes, which is just logistically impossible without the use of technology. Yes. Yeah, we can only achieve it with technology, of course. And another traits of this personalized learning are immediate feedback that learners receive from AI, and also one-to-one tutoring.
So it will be a collaboration for teachers in order to make students collaborate with AI in their learning environments.
It sounds
it sounds ridiculous at the moment, but I see the possibilities. And of course, that's just the first one of 4.
Yes, the second one was about the data for informed decision making and what it's called like uncovering the black box of learning.
And the black box is something you cannot look into, but should really...
That is hidden from you. You do not have access to looking into it. Indeed, so AI is expected to provide teachers with a massive amount of data and helping them to make more informed decisions about their students.
We're talking about learning analytics then here.
Yes, learning analytics is a good term. And for some researchers, for instance, Lakin, the learning analytics is perhaps the most important goal of AI in education. So she wrote that the goal of AI is to make computationally precise and explicit forms of educational, psychological, and social knowledge, which are often left implicit, and to eventually unpack a black box of learning. So given that AI is able not only to reveal the learner's answer, but also how the learners arrive to the answer. And here I'm not only talking about generative AI. There can be other AI systems. So AI is expected to equip teachers with a powerful lens to analyze the actual learning process.
And it's a lot more objective then, because an AI does not judge, it just perceives then.
Yeah, it also gives a trait of like judgment-free learning environment. Like, here is the data,
and you
take
do
it or leave it.
What you think you should do with it.
And with this data, teachers can be able to make more informed decisions regarding their students, decisions that are related to planning of instruction or to providing feedback and so on. And this also means that future teachers are seen as a bit of researchers.
Yeah.
So who will work with rich student data and conduct experiments to reach student goals.
Okay. And then, so we have teachers as instructional designers now, as researchers analyzing with the data their own class groups so that they can interact with them before the end of the semester. So we know then which student might struggle based on performance and those kinds of things.
That's one of the solutions of learning analytics, early prevention. So when teachers receive this data that, this student might be struggling.
And they can act quickly.
Yeah.
And then any
other themes?
Any other themes?
Because yes, the third theme was reducing administrative load.
Oh, I'm very much fond of this one.
Yeah, this is the idea that with AI, teachers can outsource different repetitive and not very interesting and
like
not important tasks.
Attendance, like filling out certain commentaries, those kinds of things.
Yes, taking attendance is usually one of the tasks. So all of these, repetitive and not directly, important tasks for student learning can be outsourced to AI. And the idea behind it is that teachers can finally focus on students. So education can become even more human and not
more
less.
Contact time then, more teaching time.
Yes, so that teachers could focus on the real teaching and learning process. That's the idea. And indeed, as you mentioned, among these administrative load tasks, taking attendance is usually mentioned, but also answering student questions on online forums, or sometimes grading is included, sometimes providing feedback and lesson planning.
But I can already see you're quite hesitant to call them administrative tasks. Why is that?
Yes, because as soon as we label some teacher tasks as administrative, and following this approach, we just outsource them to AI. We also take a decision that teachers do not need to be developing skills in these tasks. So, for instance, if a teacher always provides feedback with the help of AI, if AI automates this process to a large extent, a teacher will not develop a good skill of providing feedback to students, which is very important for expert
It's very much
teaching.
essential.
Yes, for expert teachers. So
we should be very careful what we give to an AI and what not, because I can already assume, but we're not going to open that box at this moment with privacy and private information. Could be in a whole other discussion, but we're just going to move on onto the final opportunity.
Yes, the final is what it's called the revolution of assessment.
Another revolution.
Yeah, too many revolutions at the same time. In the literature, it's even called the Renaissance in assessment. And two things are important in this regard. The first one is the opportunity to conduct more personalized assessments. So not assessments for every student in class, but for each student alone based on their own knowledge gaps.
For example, write an essay and some students like ancient Greece, and they'll do it on that, or some task might be easier for some students, or is that what we're looking at?
There can be several levels of personalization. Yeah. So what you mentioned right now is the level of interest and also the level of knowledge, so easy or harder tasks, or the level of students' personal knowledge gaps can also be taken into account.
They can be somewhat outsourced to AI because it takes a lot of time to make those tasks.
Right now it's another task that is virtually impossible without the help of technology for teachers. And another thing with regard to revolution in assessment is the idea that we should focus more on frequent formative assessments instead of high stakes summative assessment.
So we're talking about classes an entire semester. At the very end, one exam, pass or fail. You say we should change that and make it more like 1 week of training or teaching and then a small assessment. Then we go on to follow the steps of learning.
It's not per se my reflection. It's what is in there in the literature, but it is about the idea that more frequent assessments, more continuous assessments, could create a more, let's say, equitable and reliable idea of student learning.
For example, instead of one student who has a panic attack right before the exam and just completely fails, another student, they might perform better if they just have smaller, lower stakes, and you can guide them. For example, after that first assessment, you can give feedback and they can get better.
Yes, exactly in this direction. And these assessments are also proposed to be conducted in the form of a background student portfolio.
Okay.
So that AI systems can always collect a lot of data about your students and about their general learning process, not only about how they did one learning task, but throughout the whole learning process. And then, of course, it creates some risks and concerns over privacy and ethics of using this data in education.
But we're not going to
we'll need another podcast for that.
Pandora's box as if I'm going back to ancient Greece. However, so those are kind of the opportunities for AI. And I'm going to go right back to the beginning of this podcast where you mentioned your thesis is on, or I should say PhD, is on the instructional designer role of teachers and how, or maybe I should rephrase it, why is this so much more important in an AI era that teachers become instructional designers?
Well, I think this is especially important now because now we suddenly have a new actor in education. So not just a tool, not a real human being, but something in the middle, in between, an educational agent. It can help learners, but it can also help to avoid learning. And if we as educators need to ensure that learning still happens, it's really good time to look at your learning environment, about your system, which consists of the learning tasks and supportive materials, and to see whether the learning goal is still met. And after a careful analysis, you will likely come to conclusions that, maybe some things can be improved, and you will engage in the redesign process. So a very, slow and reflective process of what do we know, what is our learning goal, what do we know about students, what kind of tasks would help them to arrive at the learning goal in the most effective and efficient way.
So we're going right back to the basis of teaching, of how can we guide students to learn them about the topic and how can they learn through those small steps you prepared for them.
Yes, but of course, in order to do that, the learning goal first should clearly be defined.
Yes.
So this is the first small step in this never-ending cycle and journey of instructional design.
But of course, you have just started or are currently doing your PhD at the moment. That's the end of the interview I have for you, but you might just reintroduce yourself and tell people where they can find you so that they can stay up to date with your progress.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Kristina Krushinskaia. yeah, I know it's hard to capture it. Maybe it will be written somewhere in the captions.
Includes a link.
Oh, thanks. So you can, if you want, you can even connect to my LinkedIn. Sometimes I post something on AI in education, and currently we are doing a study on the intersection of instructional design and AI. More specifically, the co-design practices, how teachers can co-design their courses based on instructional design theory and models with the help of AI. So stay tuned.
Very much something to look forward for. Lastly, I want to thank you. Thank you for having this conversation with us. And we look very much forward to what you have to bring for your PhD.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, I'm going to say goodbye to the audience, and we hope you enjoyed the rest of this course.